welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 9. It's going quite poorly, as I recall, and we have one expansion. At least there's no events. That is a good thing. I do think, this is an expansion. We did get the mercenary group. This is a massive expansion party, although in this case, I think it is somewhat warranted. Of course, they're shooting at our elves. I hate these archers so much. Yeah, we didn't really have much choice in terms of the mercenaries that we were going to get. We got what we got, but I guess these guys probably have more protection. Yeah, just a little bit more protection than our elves. And they have shields as well, so they're slightly less enticing targets, I guess, even though they are a bit closer. But still, they do distract the archers somewhat, and they hopefully are eating some lance charges, the mercenaries that is. And yeah, we definitely have the numbers here. We could have taken this with less, absolutely, but we are trying to keep our attrition low because, expansion is not going to go great for us, and we're really hoping to have a lot of Vanhears around when the rest of our Bless comes online. So, yeah, I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this was the situation and what we're doing about it. Of course, this province that got revealed here, mainly forest trolls, quite a few if the scout report is to be believed. That's not ideal. At least forest trolls do have relatively low attack, so in that sense they're an okay matchup for elves. But of course, if they do connect, that'll be bad news. So anyway, we're going to continue with this absolutely massive expansion party, go for these wizards here. I will say we have at least gotten fairly lucky with the provinces in terms of income. So, we have a farmland that's quite valuable near us, and in this province, just like random plains is going to be more valuable once we get rid of this unrest. And then we also lucked out, we found a silver mine here in this highlands. And hopefully this province will be, relatively rich as well, because Vanheim definitely needs money. Speaking of money, we are at least starting our palisade this turn. So, fairly late here on turn 9, but I've seen worse. Of course, that does mean that, we can't get full recruitment this turn, so we're only getting half the Vanhears that we would otherwise be able to get. But that is the nature of things, and that's pretty much all that we're up to. Our lone scout is still cruising around. He has seen Femoria over here and also Relay in the water. Not too worried about any of this. This is pretty far afield for us, but, always interesting to see what's out there. We're now starting to loop back around because, we're really more interested in Archocephaly here. And looks like their expansion maybe hasn't gone quite as well. Like they expanded more in our direction than in others because we can see that, Femoria is only one province away from their capital. So we still don't know what their expansion looks like to the south, but, considering that we see a Calum flag here, like Calum's capital is probably not too far away. So like I said, war with Archocephaly seems unlikely, but certainly possible, right? Since, wiped out a lot of our sacreds. That will sometimes trigger people to attack, so we are interested in how large Archocephaly is. Research remains the same. It'll still be 2 turns before we get Construction 2, which will be our first useful research. And I think that more or less covers turn 9. All right, welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 10. Yeah, this one's not going so great. Let's see, a couple prophet proclamations coming out pretty late. So not sure what that's about. We do have a throne claim already, so that is very nice. We'll double check this turn and see if there are any level 1 thrones. Because like I said, I do think the throne settings changed. And yeah, here's our 1 expansion. This is definitely too large of a group. And there's also like some risk, right? Because, we know about these wizards, and I'm expecting fire elementals and water elementals, although maybe the water elementals will be ice elementals. And yeah, here comes the fire elemental. Right, so our Vanhears have fire resistance, but of course, the mercenaries don't, and the main thing is our regular elven troops don't. So, we put the Vanhears on the side, where we expected the fire elementals to be coming from. But the problem is that it's just the water elementals. They are just going to beat the crap out of, whatever gets close. And we would prefer, unfortunately, the mercenaries. Maybe they move slower. Elves do move a little faster, I believe. Let's see, combat speed 11 versus combat speed 10. Pretty close, but it might be the difference. So yeah, we were really hoping it was going to be the mercenaries that were going to be getting hammered by the elementals, but of course it's not. So yeah, and this is where like the our full bless would help us. Luckily, the Vanhears are really killy, so and it's just a 1 water elemental. I was also hoping that we could maybe get an HP route before we actually had to fight the elementals and the wizards would rout off. But of course the wizards have fatigued themselves out, so they can't run off. So we got the route. But they continued to provide magic leadership until the end, unwillingly. So let's see if we have to pay in Van here. Yeah, we pay in more than just Van here. So we lose a few of our elves, a few of our mercenaries, and of course we managed to lose the most Van heres. This is kind of the experience, right? Like they like to get in there and chop, and they have no defense, and they don't quite have enough protection, to avoid relatively hefty attrition overall. Not that this is, backbreaking losses, especially for a province like this. That said, we did bring a lot. We find an item, Ranger's Cloak. That's okay. We'll take it. Like I said, we're going to need to make up this really poor expansion with an excellent early war. And, I always have excellent early wars. We get some unrest in a province. Thankfully, I don't think this is our farmland, so that's good because we don't have a ton of gold as ever. And I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this was the situation and what we did about it. Well, our expansion is kind of over, which is not great. We can see that Calum has beaten us down here. We also see Pangea's flag, though we don't directly border them yet, as it is winter and these mountain passes are closed, and with our Dominion, probably will remain closed. We'll see. Possibly this year, if our Dominion doesn't fill in that strongly, they might open up briefly. But yeah, other than the throne provinces, we have this other province up here by Xibalba. It seems like things probably aren't going super well for Xibalba because I haven't grabbed this. Of course, then again, neither have we, but things aren't going super great for us. So we'll see. We might be able to grab this province. We do have a few Vanhears building up in the capital. I imagine that, we'll go through one more round of recruitment. And then hopefully we'll send that group up and nab this province. We're going after the forest trolls. The scout report is down a lot, so hopefully there's not too many here. I think we have more than enough stuff here. Really, the main concern is attrition. I think we'll win, definitely, even if there really are 30 trolls there. We are putting in another bid for the mercenaries, going a bit over, like about double what they would ask for us. But, I do think they're worth holding on to. Yeah, we still have most of them. They are pretty useful in terms of bulking out our numbers. Did a little bit of site searching that didn't work out. Speaking of site searching, we are moving one of our Earth 3 dwarves out. I don't know. Searching early for gems, I think, is definitely good. I do really like searching with 3s because you find almost all the sites that are out there. We do have, a highlands and a mountain up here, both of which are better for Earth sites. But that early research is really important. And I would say, overall, air is probably more important to search for early. But I don't really like searching for air with the Vanherses, though. We did search in this location because this was the guy that was leading around one of our expansion parties that we rolled into our main group. So he was already out here. Might as well do a little bit of site searching while he's already in province. But at Air 1, there's a lot of sites that you miss. So I prefer, ideally you search with the Vanadrot, but I think searching with Van Jarls is also fine. Anyway, he's going to move up this turn and help us build some infrastructure for when our palisade comes up. And that pretty much covers what we're up to. Our scout has seen that there's also bordering Arcocephaly, but, otherwise hasn't really caught anything else too interesting. We are at least getting full recruitment here. We're still resource locked, unfortunately. But, we did take Sloth, so... The main thing is that, we're able to recruit all the Vanhears that we need, which we are. And I think that more or less covers turn 10.
All right, welcome back to Full House 7th Edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 11. I believe we have yellowed into some trolls. I was planning on doing a little bit of testing, but didn't have the time, so let's take a look. Okay, we did manage to keep the mercenaries, which is important. Wow, that is a lot of trolls. That's more trolls than I was hoping for. This could go really badly. This guy has some gems too, which is also not good. So our elven troops are actually a decent matchup, right? Because the trolls don't have great skills. No, please don't go for the Vanheir trolls. The Vanheirs do not have good defense, and without like the full, our full bless, it's not going to go as hot. So yeah, this is going to be pretty ugly. And could be the end of our game here. So luckily, like, the Vanheirs do enough damage, and the glamour, even though the defense on the Vanheirs is quite poor, the glamour does help things out, because a lot of the trolls hits are going to hit the image, so it isn't too painful. I do think we take some losses, and luckily this guy's pathing is so low, he's not really able to do anything with the gems. I was expecting maybe some lesser elementals. But I'm not even sure what he did, which is good, and we definitely use a little bit of help. We do finish research and construction level 2, so now we have some basic forging for thugs, but also for owl quills, which will help boost our research. We're going to do some evocation research next. I'm not sure where we'll go after that. I know a lot of people feel that you really shouldn't make owl quills with an Irination, but I don't know. Vanheim's research seems kind of lackluster, so I feel like it needs the help. And then it looks like Helheim is able to pick up a throne. So yeah, there's definitely some level 1 thrones out there. There's a level 1 throne pretty close to us, I believe, that we're thinking about attacking. I was hoping to wait until our full bless came online, but Pangea, I think, also borders it, and there's a good chance those White Centaur are heavily blessed, and so there's a good chance that Pangea will grab it, because obviously people are grabbing those level 1 thrones. I would also imagine that Helheim has a pretty substantial bless. So some unexpected events, Misfortune 3, that's fine. That's where we're headed anyway. And then in Vanheim, of course, the yellow mold. So we can pretty much kiss our defense goodbye on our capital, but it's not the end of the world. And yeah, I'll catch you guys after the jump.
All right, this was the situation and what we did about it. Still playing pretty cautiously here, so we're going to go ahead and ping a commander off this throne. It's not impossible that this is a level 2 throne, with some mages hiding out here, but, you can see like only 50 units in the scout report versus here's 140. So definitely the benefit of hindsight here, but I think probably should have gone for it immediately with this group, because this is actually a pretty strong group, but instead we're going to go ahead and be safe and bounce a fellow off of it, and we're also bringing up, all the Vanheirs that we recruited in the capital, so we're going to have a truly massive force, potentially also thinking that, maybe we roll immediately into Pangea, but that does mean that we're probably giving up this province here, which is definitely a bit sad. Also recruiting, some more deer tribe. We've had some just hanging out here. That's not ideal. We are at least recruiting a commander here to come pick them up. We've talked about that. I do think chaff is good. Deer tribe is in the good news department. This is a scout province that we found. So, we have our first scout out, and we are indeed sending them into Pangea. I don't know. I feel like Pangea is not necessarily a great first target. Because, White Centaur are an excellent sacred, and oftentimes people bless them fairly strongly. Potentially, we don't really know a lot about Pangea, and we will be bordering them, hopefully soon once we take this throne. Also in the good news department, it looks like Calum and Archocephaly are fighting each other. So that's great news, right? At least for the short term, we have kind of a secure border here. I feel like Calum is probably a good matchup for us, so, potentially we jump in on Archocephaly's side, and of course, we talked about Calum's capital generates air gems, we like that, but, we'll learn more about what Pastor Janus was thinking next turn. We do see that, has some provinces, they appear to be not dead, so that's somewhat interesting. That more or less covers what we're up to. Yeah, in terms of recruitment, should be pretty similar. Do manage to squeak out, a couple of extra herdmen. It looks like I did decide to go for the herdmen, and again, that's mostly because they don't have javelins. Don't think it really matters too much, because we're getting these in such small numbers that it kind of doesn't really matter the additional troop that you recruit out of your capital. We are going for another dwarf. That is mostly money related. And speaking of money, we're site searching here instead of getting our infrastructure going, though we still have 2 more turns before we'd be able to recruit anything. And I think that more or less covers turn 11. All right, welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 12. We don't actually have anything going on this turn. We did ping. Oh, interesting. So Agartha, looks like they attacked that throne. and they probably took it. I was thinking we were racing Pangea, but it looks like other people are involved. Looks like there was another throne claim. Not actually sure who this is. But yeah, a lot of earlier claims because of the level 1 thrones, and then we actually had our god wake up. So this is really lucky. This is, I don't know, really lucky, but it's as early as our pretender could wake up and is very important because, yeah, we're gonna need that bless. So let's take a look at what Agartha is rocking. And actually, I was saying they probably took it, but since our battle was against independence, I guess they did not. Okay, interesting. So this could be a level 2 throne, because there are mages here. They didn't show up in the scout report, which is how it goes sometimes. That's why it's useful to ping these thrones. And Agartha sent in their pretender, which is the Earth Serpent, who is pretty notorious. I guess, it used to be quite powerful. And it still is, although it's been made significantly more expensive. It is extremely difficult to kill, very high protection, a ton of hit points. It has fear built in, but it only has 1 attack, and so therefore it's not very killy, and it's probably just going to time out here because of the skelly spam, and just natural protection. Not really sure about the mountain survival. It's probably just left over, maybe because, they want a certain level of earth magic in order to cast like a global or something like that. But Skelly Spam is kind of the worst case scenario for this snake because, the human troops will run eventually, right, from the fear. There goes some of them. But the skeletons, they don't care about fear. Also, they definitely are getting some chip damage through. Yeah, and he's decaying. The decay probably won't matter, because it's very high max age. But this is looking pretty dangerous, right? Let's see, see if we can get the, battle rounds. So this is going to go on for a long time. And with the amount of chip damage that he's taking, although it seems to be taking less now, but still some. This is, at minimum, this Earth Snake is going to be really messed up with a lot of afflictions. Well, I say that. He's only got 2 right now. He does at least have recuperation. So assuming he survives, he will be able to heal some of these wounds, but this is not looking good. And since we already know that the Independents win this, I think this Earth Snake dies because I don't really see how he would get off the field, right? He's not killing the skeletons faster than they're coming out, even though these guys are probably mostly asleep by now. You can see that there's, not as many skeletons coming out, but he's routed, but he can't escape, so he's unlikely to cut a path free for himself. And I think we've got a dead Earth Snake here, and maybe Agartha, right, is our first target, because this is a pretty serious blow, since I think the Bless is mostly focused on helping, their Awake Expander, although I think Agartha's Sacreds will also, like that Bless, but otherwise it's a relatively light Bless, and there it goes. Also good news for us, since we have all of our troops kind of standing by, so, we ping it, but it's not really necessary anymore. Our chief does at least survive, so that is nice. And then let's see, we have an unexpected event, handful of earth gems. We prefer that to mold. And we do patrol down a little bit of unrest as we wait for that ping. So I'll catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. We're going for the throne, so probably pretty safe from these provinces that we don't know, since we just saw Agartha attempt things. And there's, this has full heat. So these mountain passes are probably open, but this is still independent. We know Jabalba is up here, and it looks like, maybe they're struggling a bit. Hard to say. You could make the same argument for us, and I would say that, yes, we are struggling a bit, right? Because this province here is not that strong. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here, and there is some heavy cav, so, that always makes players nervous, rightly so, but, it's only 2 provinces from their capital, also only 2 provinces from our capital, and also this river here is going to block a lot of expansion parties from crossing it. And I'm guessing that this is Agartha, right? There's a cave, pretty good chance that this is Agartha's capital, in which case, most of this territory is probably Agartha's. So possibly Pangea could, saw that failed attempt and will go for it. But we can see there's Lanka here. So possibly these 2 are fighting. Or, even if they're not fighting, this is kind of a long reach now for Pangea. So fairly high confidence that we will not bump with anything. Also, this is kind of our strategy, right? Our god is online. This is the majority of our sacreds. If this cannot kill what our neighbors have, we're kind of screwed. So we're going to go in for it. I don't think there's really any reason to wait. I don't think there's going to be a better moment. The plan is real simple. It is to chop And so, yeah, everyone's just going to attack rear, right? We just want to get back. There isn't really much left in terms of regular troops, right? We can see that from our bump, 13 archers, 15 heavy infantry. So really, we just need to get to the back and, try to kill the conjurers and circle master before they make too many skeletons. Our Vanheers are very killy, so I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. We are also bringing our prophet, and this guy's going to advance and cast spells, and he is a priest, only level 1, but he can banish undead. So yeah, I think this is going to work out really well for us, and I think if we do bump, unless we bump with a really large stack of White Centaur who have a really strong bless, that is a possibility, always. That would be dicey. Otherwise, I think we're pretty safe. That is the majority of it. We are building up our infrastructure a little bit. Our palisade will finish next turn, which is really late, and we don't have any other forts under construction. We won't even be able to recruit a mage out of this immediately. We are building a temple here. We'll build a lab here next turn. And I think the next order of business will try to get, be to get this under our control. I might try to sign a non-aggression pact with Xibalba. Honestly, I think Xibalba would be a decent target for us, but I've fought this player like kind of 2 games running, and it's not like we need to attack Xibalba. So I don't want to it's like I always fight this player kind of thing. I prefer to be more flexible. So I'll probably reach out to them, and see like where they're at, and maybe even suggest something like, hey, I'll get this province and I'll forge like a dwarven hammer for you, for some earth gems still. But there's a pretty good chance that, they won't be able to forge it yet. This is pretty early. Yeah, it looks like Xibalba has quite a bit of earth, but they don't have anybody that's like easily earth 3. In fact, yeah, that guy gets no earth. I think this guy is probably their highest, and he can random into earth 2, it looks like. So once he hits higher level construction, he'll absolutely be able to set up, his own dwarven hammers, but getting one early is kind of a nice bonus. And if we do manage to pull that off, right, we do want this province. It's probably a relatively wealthy province just because it has so many defenders, and it's not going to have a ton of resources, but a few more resources for this fort, also just so we don't have a fort that's right on a border would be nice. And then that would leave us relatively protected to our north, right, with diplomatic agreements, and then we can focus on the south and, maybe the west here. It looks like, the Calum Arco War is probably ongoing, and it looks like Calum is doing decently well. We at least don't see, any Arcocephalian flags like deep in Calum's territory. Calum also looks like relatively large, at least at this point in the game. So maybe Calum is like not such a juicy target. On the other hand, the larger they are, the easier they are to raid. We don't really have our raiders set up yet. We don't really actually even have that many Vanhearses yet. So we may want to hold off on this one, right? Let them finish digesting Arcocephaly. We wouldn't mind Arcocephaly disappearing, and then maybe reaching out, to Calum's other neighbors and suggesting like, hey, they're getting kind of big and scary. Why don't we all knife them together? And in the meantime, if Agartha's, doing as poorly as we hope they are, right? Maybe that's where we go next. So we'll see. The other thing is, we really do want to clear our cap circle. This throne is looking a little on the scarier side, but not that scary. So we do want to eliminate this, before anybody gets any ideas. The fact that it's in our cap circle means that probably nobody will go after it unless they're also planning on attacking us. But yeah, right, if we have a stack of scary sacreds, we should be able to handle this, which we do, or we will. We're getting there in terms of numbers. And it's always good, to pick up thrones as soon as you can for the dominion spread, for the magic diversity, for the gems, etc., etc. Of course, that means that our Vanheers will have to, slow walk all the way over here, and then they'll be ready to attack Calum versus having to slow walk, back again to attack Agartha. So we'll see. For now, let's just see how this attack against this throne goes. And I think that more or less covers turn 12. Of course, since it is turn 12, right, the start of year 1, the end of year 0, it is time for a tour of the F keys. So F1, Nation Overview. So we have ended expansion with only 9 provinces, which is pretty miserable. I do feel like our neighbors did expand in our direction a bit, but we were really slow and cautious the whole time, and this is the result. So this is going to be a really slow start for us. We have at least gotten like some site searching done, although we haven't had that much success yet. We have no additional infrastructure up, and you can see like the result of our scales. This is a pretty low income for capital, and there's no unrest here bringing it down, so this is just because our scales kind of suck. In terms of, interesting things out of our provinces, there's not too much. We do at least have a couple of options for nature. Woodhenge druids are kind of tempting because they are stealthy, right? And most of our stuff is stealthy, so adding, some stealthy nature ones might be more worth it for us than normal. At least we have nature kind of covered. Let's see where this is. Okay, this is the province we just took, which is kind of nice. This is otherwise like not that useful of a province. So in that sense, it's not ideal, but we do have to be careful about putting too many forts in our cap circle, like especially this province where the deer tribe are. We don't want to put a fort there, at least not yet. Probably not ever, right, since we're going to have to put a fort here because it's a throne. And I think the other option is here. Yeah, also in our cap circle. Now there's less resources here, so it's not as big of a deal, but like still. We don't have you can see we're kind of resource constrained out of our capital. We really, even if we bump up our holy points a little bit, we can only get maybe one more van here, two more van heres. So anyway, that covers the nation overview. Take a quick look at our graphs. Our province graph, increased slowly but relatively steadily with two notable pauses, which is, not great. This is why our expansion was not great. No new forts. Our income, right, is mostly tracked with our provinces. We haven't found any sites, I guess. Yeah, I guess the sites that we've found are actually gold-based. So yeah, we haven't increased our gem income at all. Although, like I said, we've actually done a decent job site searching, maybe too much site searching for this early in the game. A lot of that was because of our cautious and slow expansion. So we had more time, to sit around and site search. Our research is pretty abysmal, but at least it's going up. Dominion, not doing great. Some of this is probably misfortune related. You get some of the misfortune events will take away candles. And then army size, there should be, the one drop. Overall, we did a decent job of protecting our sacreds during expansion, right? We only lost the one group, which absolutely was painful. But otherwise, right, we did at least end expansion with a solid army size. And we made sure, to protect our most important units before our bless came online. And again, right, this whole strategy, pretty arguable in terms of how effective it's going to be. Certainly so far, this has been, the painful time, but now it's going to all be worth it. Fingers crossed. And then, of course, no ascension points for us yet, although quite a few people, have jumped up. And now F3 for the Hall of Fame. Sadly, we do not have anyone up there. I mean, I know it says that this is ours, but this, of course, is the mercenary commander who also managed to pick up one of the items that we got. Very sad about that. And you can't, they don't give away their stuff once they get it. But yeah, the Hall of Fame is actually a little more relevant for us. And, this is something that I've never really done, but you can do thug expansion, which is kind of important if you want to try to get a bunch of heroic traits for, your thugs. So at some point, I would like to try something like that. It looks like Sarmatia is doing pretty well. Maybe did some thug expansion, right? Because they have 3 people up here. Yeah, all of them have quite a few kills, right? Anything over 10 kills is kind of significant. We can also see that Yomi managed to get one up there, so that is worth noting since they are a neighbor of ours. And then looks like Macone got one, but this is probably just the starting commander. So nothing too crazy. TNN does have 2 up there. They're pretty similar to us in terms of their elven thugs, so it looks like they might have done some thug expansion, and maybe that's the secret sauce, right, that I'm missing for Vanheim, although of course the other thing you can do is just go awake with your Vanheir Bless. I also think scales expansion, totally viable with Vanheim, but you do need scales for that. The pretenders of the world, we don't need to go through this in detail. No one has been eliminated. Occasionally, in full house games, people do get eliminated before turn 12. I think there are a couple people on the ropes, if the game chat is to be believed. But everybody at least survived year 0. Our research is doing much, much better now because our pretender is awake. Our pretender is not an amazing researcher, but because they're a rainbow and they have a lot of paths, their research is much better than any of our regular units. So this is going to help us a lot. We do need some help research-wise. We've talked about evocation. I'm going to gamble on construction 4. I think probably the safest bet would be conjuration 5 for the air elementals. That said, we really need Van Jarls to really properly pull that off. Van Herses are not so great at summoning in air elementals, and it's going to be a second before we have a lot of Van Jarls. They're quite expensive. We don't have a lot of infrastructure. So I think, if we raced for Conjuration 5, it's okay, great, we can summon air elementals, but we don't actually have that many people that can do it. Versus Construction 4 is going to be useful for us for a lot of reasons. Construction 3 nets us Legions of Steel, which is going to put additional protection on our Vanhears, who are already going to have pretty high protection, so that's going to be useful. And then, of course, Construction 4 really opens up. With the Bless that we have, I don't really think it's that viable for us to thug with Construction 2 gear, which is kind of difficult to do anyway. So you really, I feel, want to hit Construction 4 before you can realistically start to lean heavily on thugs, which we do want to do. And Van Herses, while are not so great at summoning in air elementals, are at least acceptable thugs. And that's mostly what we're going to have probably for the next 10 to 20 turns. So we'll see how that goes. We may change from Conjuration 5. This is sort of a placeholder for now. We do want it. We just may want other stuff first. F6 for the global enchantments, of which there are none. That's not that surprising. F7 for our gem income. And since we haven't found any sites, our gem income is just our capital income. We have at least had a couple of gem events. We have a ton of water gems for some reason. But it'll probably be a while before we start to get some of these other gem types, because magic diversity is not one of our strong points. And now F8 for our magic item treasury, of which we have none, although we are doing our first forging this turn. No, I lied. We did our first forging last turn, which was our Dwarven Hammer. We're probably just going to sit on that Dwarven Hammer for now and just forge Alquills, because like I said, our research needs help. So F9 is the throne situation. So there's actually quite a few throne claims. A couple of them are actually level 2 thrones. So Helheim probably has a pretty decent bless, which is not that surprising. The Crystal Throne is a really nice pickup for them. We definitely would have liked to get some Astral, and Astral Earth is a useful cross path that we don't have, although we do at least have some Earth, so, it is what it is. Throne of Fortune, probably less relevant for us, right? Going from Misfortune 3 to Misfortune 2, it is nice, but yeah, I don't know. You're still going to get a lot of bad events. The 2 Astral Pearls is quite nice. The level 1 thrones are significantly weaker, although not all thrones are created equal. Throne of Storms is arguably one of the better level 1 thrones, because that's 3 air gems. We would have liked to get that. And plus 5 shock resistance, very relevant. Assuming you're using your Sacreds, which, yeah, Sauromatia probably is, so that's a nice pickup for them. Throne of Might, probably one of the weaker ones, although that said, Strength can be really relevant. No gems from this one, but Marverni grabbed that. Marverni seems to be doing decently well. Definitely a nation that doesn't always do so hot out the gate. So that is the throne situation and ends our tour of the overall game state. We will take a look at the start of the next year.